The pen is the tool of the journalists. On this program, we call it Pens Down because this is where the news reporters and presenters become the newsmakers. I have been joined by a colleague. He is a broadcast journalist with half a decade experience in media practice, specializing in reporting on activities within Ghana's parliament, as well as other events in the country. He is parliamentary correspondent for City FM and the host of The Chamber and the Press Conference. The Press Conference is a weekly television news analysis program that offers the platform for media practitioners in Ghana to discuss the big stories of the week and further allows them to make constructive input into shaping the national discourse. In 2018, he moderated a session of the Ghana Youth Meeting on the occasion of the International Youth Day at the World Bank office in Accra, Ghana. He was also part of a group of journalists trained by the US Embassy in Accra on reporting and the coverage of the elections ahead of the crucial 2016 polls. He also hosted the Reference Point election analysis program, Campaign Trail, all on City 97.3 FM in Accra in the run-up to the 2016 election. He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science with the study of religions from the University of Ghana, Legon. He worked with Radio Univers, which is the campus-based station, and served as president of the Legon Hall Junior Common Room, JCR, and vice president of the prestigious University of Ghana Debate Society in his student days. Duke Mensah Opoku has joined me today on Pens Down. Thanks for joining me, my brother.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Pleasure is mine.
Somebody with an interest in debate must be, how do I even put it? Must be an insatiable reader, one
Yes.
that reads a lot, is very open-minded and deep. How did you develop this passion for reading and debating?
Well, the passion for reading, I would credit that to my late grandfather, who's an educationist. Yes, so he actually inculcated in us, all of us, myself and my siblings, the value of reading. So he would encourage us to read almost everything and give him summaries of what you've read. And some way, somehow, knowingly, he was building in us the culture of reading, turning us more or less like into bookworms, sort of, growing up. That's how it was. So that is how come unknowingly he was cultivating in us the habit of reading. So that's how come I developed that interest for reading right from a very very young age, always wanting to read whatever I chanced upon. And when I went to school, got to school, interacting with my colleagues, my contemporaries, always knew that one way or the other you were a bit much more informed. And now tracing it back, it was all because of the fact that that curiosity, that habit of reading had actually been inculcated in me. And that's how come that mindset of focus on reading and interacting and wanting to inform people was unknowingly built or inculcated in me. So that's how I would attribute all of that to the kind of training he gave us when we were growing up, and the fact that he always insisted on you reading summaries and finding out your ability to be able to remember what you had read. And all through that has guided my path up until now. So I would attribute that to him. And I'm very grateful for that kind of training he gave us at me when we were growing up. no goes back to your bringing and training, really. Yes.
Was your entry into journalism an accident or it was planned?
Well, I would say it was, both. Let me start from Univers. At Univers,
Okay.
went to the University of Ghana
Mm.
with the mindset that I would not leave with just a degree, but I
Okay.
would leave with an experience better than just having a degree. So it was about, as much as possible, trying to get everything, every possible skills that I could acquire. Yeah. So when I heard of the opportunity of Radio Univers, where you could get in there, get trained on the hands-on training.
Yeah.
Apart from what you were studying, which I was studying, which was political science.
Yeah.
I jumped at the opportunity, applied, almost asked everybody I could about how I could get in there, and I went through the interviews and got on there and started hit the ground running, and I felt that I enjoyed the system at Univers at the time. Sort of you went through all sort of very rigorous training, because in the newsroom you didn't have so much resources. You didn't have you didn't have resources, so you had to be able to think on your feet to ensure that things worked. It was some sort of a boot camp, really. So you do everything from production to writing news stories to hosting shows. So all the skills that you need to succeed in mainstream journalism, you learned it at university the hard way. And this was talking about from 2013 to about 2015 when I left the University of Ghana. So that's how come I went through that training. When I completed the university in 2015, there was the opportunity for national service at CTFM.
Okay.
I applied, got in, and that's how come I moved from for want of a better word, amateur journalism or student journalism into mainstream journalism. So that's how come I got in there. So even though I had the passion for it, when I saw that there was the need, or there was an opportunity for me to be trained hands-on with all the things available at this, because it's attached to the School of Communication Studies. I did not hesitate at all. I got in there, and the rest they say it becomes some sort of a cliche, but that is how I moved from student training into getting into mainstream journalism. Yes.
So in what year at the university did you join Radio Univers?
That I joined Univers in 2013. So from 2013 to 2015.
I mean, which level were you?
I was in level 300. Yes.
Okay.
So it's from 300 to 400.
Okay.
Yeah, I was with Univers till I completed 2015, and then 2015 August CTFM came along, and I got in there to work.
Journalism in Ghana is suffering a lot of attrition. So many highly trained, qualified professionals are abandoning the ship and they are looking elsewhere. Some are finding solace in public relations. Others are going into anything that will give them survival. What do you think is accounting for this trend?
Oh, that's a tough one. It's challenging. I think it's because many people see media as a platform to do other things. That's the honest truth. The other part of it is that the media industry in Ghana is not developed, or it's not strong enough financially to be able to sustain people that well, keep them grounded, to be able to provide for so many different things. And people, I mean, as we grow, as we go up the ladder, responsibilities change, people want to do different things. And when what they're able to make from mainstream journalism is not able to pay for their day-to-day living, they'll move on to. So we don't have a lot of people who are doing the job out of passion. Of course, even if it's out of passion, at a point in time, passion wins. So it's because of a real genuine economic challenges and problems within the industry, which is the reason why people leave. People leave. But people, if you do it out of passion, at a point in time, the passion will win. But if you come in with it with a mindset that it's a thankless job, and you are doing it because you love it, and there are people like that who see it as a calling, it's a thankless job. Every day they want to move on and tell stories, and they are happy doing that. They just do that, and they just keep on doing it. And if you are not, if you are fortunate and you find yourself in a media establishment that will be able to sustain you financially and help you achieve to be able to achieve what you want to do with all the financial resources available, and you're lucky, good to go, you can do it. But when you cannot provide for yourself in a job that you do passionately, with all of these challenges and other things, you at a point in time you may just have to think about ways of just move on. That is the reason why at a point that the individuals, that's another thing, not wanting it to be a path or a platform for them to move on to higher things. That's one side of it. The other part of it is the fact that the media industry in Ghana is not so strong financially, and it's due to a whole lot of factors, advertisement, and so many different things, which may be out of the control of the media owners and all of those things. So it's a multifaceted challenge that needs different approaches to be able to solve. But from my perspective, passion at a point in time wins. So if you don't have the means to be able to sustain yourself, you may just move on to somewhere where your bread can be buttered, to put it plainly. Yes.
Let's look at social media.
Yeah.
How has social media changed the face of journalism?
Okay, so I'll put it this way. It's made the accessibility to the traditional platforms a lot more. It's gradually making the traditional platforms obsolete. So if you're a traditional media platform and you don't innovate, there will be a point in time where you go obsolete. Because right now, yes, people do not consume radio
newspapers.
No.
Yes.
They'll go onto Facebook and find the news anyway. So if you're going to stay, if you still want to be the go-to place, then the answer is credibility, because social media is not verifiable. It's not something you can verify. You can find out if indeed this news, what you are reading or what you are listening to is true or not. And in the kind of news market that Ghana finds, it's all where we are in. Mostly people don't. It's only a certain group of people who really care about whether the news is true or not, and that is a certain segment of the market. But for many people, they just want to find out what is true and ask around whether ask around whether that is whether what they are talking about is whether what people are saying is true or not, really. But for the traditional platforms, radio, TV, if the news media, if they don't take the new media platforms seriously, they will just face. And I think that is why a lot more the traditional platforms are now going hard or taking new media matters very, very seriously, so that they'll be able to compete on the phone, because the competition now has left consumption of radio and TV to online, which a lot of people know. So I mean, it's either you innovate on that front, or in the next few years you count yourself out of the media market. Really, that's how I would answer it. Forgive me if the answer is convoluted.
No problem. Social media has produced richer bloggers than richer journalists. I am curious and worried at the same time. What is it that we, who at least had some sort of training in how to man media, did not do, which is why scarcely trained media people have been able to manipulate social media to better their economic loss?
I would look at it this way. The generation that the new media generation are after, mostly after the, I mean, sensational stuff. I'll put it that way. After sensationalism, really. So, and the unfortunately, the how blogging started, or how the new media started, was from that angle. The traditional media did not really, they were fast in catching up. They were late in catching up.
Okay.
They were late in catching up when it comes to the new media stuff, or new media platforms. And by the time they realized, the bloggers had
made a fortune.
Had a chunk of that market and made a fortune out of it, with all of the sensational stuff going on there. So once they take the lead, it's next to, I don't want to use the word impossible to catch up. It's difficult to catch up, and that's how come people would go to certain platforms for certain kinds of news and all of that. And also, consistency matters. Bloggers have been able to do this consistently and develop a certain following and base for themselves. And we know that if once you subscribe, there's AdSense, there's all those ways that people can make money off the new media without necessarily having to think about the traditional mode of media of going for adverts and all of that. It's a mix of the two, but it's because of the fact that those who started that side of things focused on sensationalism, and actually that's what sells. And the traditional media is running ahead of itself to catch up with other things.
You are parliamentary correspondent for City TV and City FM. Am I right?
Yes. So I would say that I'm a parliamentary correspondent for City FM, City TV. I was up until September. So when you not left. Actively, yes.
Okay.
But for the past few, from 2016 to 20 years, upon that one, I was parliamentary correspondent.
That's about a period of almost 6 years.
6 years, yes. As parliamentary correspondent.
You were in Parliament when the controversial, infamous hang Parliament was sworn into office.
Yes.
What was your most challenging day dealing with that Parliament where nobody had a clear majority? Things sometimes degenerated into fisticuffs, people snatching ballot boxes right in Parliament and all that. What has been your most challenging day?
I would say the night, when January 6th, 2020 into the 2021, into the when the Parliament itself was being formed, because that night was chaotic, and you comparing that to the 2017 when there was a clear majority, it was not so big, it was not so challenging, because clear majority, people come in, they do what they are supposed to do, speaker is elected, and that's it, things just go. But that night was telling us what was going to happen. So long night. There were so many cracks. You didn't notice how things were going to go because there was a lot of thinking through and other kind of machinations, for want of a better word, behind the scenes. So that night it was challenging because this is the birth of a new. It was exciting for somebody who genuinely had cultivated interest in covering parliament over the period, over the state parliament. But then you have this parliament, things hang parliament, things are going to change. It's going to be a test of the country's democracy. And then you come in and you see that, well, in spite of the fact that it's going to be exciting, it is going to also to be very chaotic because even the election of the speaker,
yes,
which should have been a straightforward or a no-brainer, turned into something else with throwing of chairs and long night with all sorts of things coming up. And if you get the opportunity to see things up close, as we did get the opportunity to see, you notice that even though the hang parliament is good for the generality of Ghanaians, in there within, it also has the potential to show to the world a kind of Ghana that had never been seen before. A Ghana where there's so much chaos in its parliament. Of course, but on the basis of accountability, that is good because the kind of things that the government of the day, the majority, could have just railroaded it through in the last parliament. In this one, they are not being able to do. Me, my most challenging day was that night because it tested us on all fronts. The parliamentary press tested us on all fronts and just gave us an indication how challenging it was going to be covering this parliament. And it wasn't so much surprising then that we saw it with the E-level, we saw it with the passage of the budget, because now things that people thought that they could get away with, or it would be easier with a kind of a rubber stamp parliament, as always said. That was not going to happen. And
let me find this out from you. Was it that politicians never anticipated a day where we will have almost a deadlock situation in parliament, or they were convinced that every election was going to draw a clear majority that will run things in parliament without any obstructions from the other side?
I think politicians sometimes find it difficult in reading the room. In reading the room when it comes to elections, and that's what actually transpired. That's what actually transpired. But gradually, you notice that they may be learning what they are learning. So now the kind of things that they are supposed they thought could have just gone through easily, especially in parliament, things that can just go through easily. They now have to think twice about it before they present it to parliament, because they know that once they bring it to parliament and the necessary consultations have not been done, i.e. with the representatives who also have their base because they've been put in there by people. If they don't do the required consultations, it will not work as it has to work. So at the very beginning, there was some underestimation of the people power. But now, with the kind of things that are happening, politicians now realize that they cannot just take people for a ride again, especially when it comes to policies and also the formulation of laws.
Were you in parliament in 2017 when Boakye Ejaku was vetted?
I was in parliament. That's also another one.
After that vetting, the Honorable, I think, Muntaka, or one of the NDC MPs, if I am correct, came up to say that there was some bribery or something for their part of the bench to approve Honorable Boakye Ejaku. Personally, from where I sat as an observer from afar, I didn't see any problem either with his qualification or performance that would have necessitated some greasing of palms. That issue, there were all sort of back and forth here and there. How did it end? Was there any truism in that claim? You were closer to the action spot than us.
Yeah. Well, so it's more or less at that point in time was more or less about people trying to establish their feet in Parliament. So, and he dazzled. He dazzled the.
He did.
Yeah, he dazzled the team. So it was just a way of trying to find out if an allegation could stick or not. And this was what brought about that that committee hearing. The committee did its work, and at the end of the day, ended up in a split report, which we had a majority and a minority report, which is also one of the things I find reporting from Parliament. I found a bit difficult to talk about, because your sources may give you information that this is what is going on. If you put it out there and it backfires on the head of you, the journalist. Yes. So even as I said here today, the kind of things that went on, I cannot talk about it. I can talk about it, but it's what you call it. There's a certain culture of approval of journalists, approval of ministers. It's on the appointments committee. What happened after whatever happens in the public glare? Of course, they go into a closed sitting, closed caucus, which journalists are not allowed to. So you would only be allowed. Your ears and eyes in the meetings are the ones who are going to give you information. Your sources are going to give you information. So you don't know what to believe, but you have to be able to read in between the lines based on the information they will give you and the report, the official report of the committee, and what you heard, to be able to read in between the lines and sometimes speculate. But I think that it was just a way of making an allegation stick on a good man. But those who are at the end of the day, those who are supposed to prosecute that agenda, if I put it that way, ended up not being able to do it. So reporting from Parliament is such a sensitive issue, complicated enterprise that you have to be able to read in between the lines. Just be able to talk about the things that you can prove and not go into the things that you cannot for certain today. If you are put before the privileges committee or anything, you can prove. No, you just have to do that.
By parliamentary procedure, is a certain speaker qualified to vote? I'm sure you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah. Controversial issues. Yeah. By the ruling of the court, which is subject to interpretations anyway. You can't. The speaker in his seat, the speaker, that is the one who has been elected.
That's right.
He does not have a vote. Does not have a casting vote.
Okay.
Because he's an umpire. He's like a referee.
Yeah.
But the one who is, if he's a second, the deputies who are members, who act as speakers, are the ones who have votes.
Even when they are presiding.
Even when they are presiding.
It is left to their discretion.
It is left to their discretion. When they are presiding, it's left to their discretion. But when the speaker is in his seat, he is the one who has actually been elected to be the referee. But when the one who is when the deputies are sitting in their seats, they can sit, they can decide whether to leave their votes there or come up there, and everything is subject to their own to their discretion to actually decide what to do, because it's more or less like when they are there sitting in their seat, they are representing their people. But once they come up, they are no more representatives of the people anymore. They are sitting in the seat of the one who they are supposed to, who is supposed to be there in person, but is not around.
Okay.
So they can decide to exercise their discretion. And it's an age-old maxim that Parliament is a master of its own rules. And Parliament is a closed book. Whatever happens there, they have the opportunity to vary it, without the courts saying anything about it. If you go, if you argue on the tangent of the separation of powers and Parliament, the legislature not being above the judiciary. So in not so many words, that is how I'll answer it.
Okay. Do you believe or do you buy into the argument that journalists should be licensed?
I think so. I think so. Because it would help with standardization, with standards.
Okay.
With standards, because going through the practice of journalism, there are persons that if you want to have a proper a media that is accountable, that is
professional,
that is well
ethical,
set up, that you can really expect high quality standards. Licensing journalists is the way to go, but it has to be done properly, and it has to be done properly. Maybe the Journalism Association and the proper structures need to be set up to ensure that when you say that this person is a journalist, you can expect a certain level of quality from the person, and not just any kind of work coming out of them, because that will save the profession a lot of the trouble and a lot of the bad name that gets put out there because of the lack of quality work. If I may put it that way, I think so. But from the way that the industry is set up in Ghana, where the industry is not up there yet economically to be able to pay for licensing, and it's a whole lot. It's a bigger conversation that's above me. But I think that if you have journalists who are licensed, who are professional, who can do the work, it will help, because then you can expect a certain level of quality work from a person who says he's licensed, because everything boils down to training and to being able to stay true to the ethics of the profession that you say you practice.
Yeah. Some also say one of the downsides that we shouldn't gloss over is that politicians, for their appetite for crushing dissent, they might masquerade into some of these licensing bodies. And at the end of the day, it will become an avenue for vendetta. Critical journalists might be either refused or theirs will not be renewed when due. Who is seen as an enemy of so and so politicians, when they have the upper hand, they might decide to use it as a big hammer to hit them down, among several other things. You see that as a possible downside?
It could be, but if you have a strong institution, and this may be idealist, but that's what I think. If the organization are supposed to license these journalists is set up to be independent, well-funded, well-run, without the influence of politicians, they can do what they have to do and say that this is what we are supposed to do. And if you don't meet these standards.
Yeah.
You should not be licensed, then you won't be licensed. As simple as that. But everything boils down to the influence of politicians in Ghana. So I wonder if that was, but from my idealist perspective, that is how things should be. Set up institution that runs well funded to be able to do without having politicians pulling the strings. Yes, that's how I put it.
Media houses are springing up in Ghana with the fingerprints of politicians, political actors, and politically exposed persons. The increasing political ownership of the media. A baby democracy, a blossoming democracy. Are we caught in trouble? Are we loading a gun in the hands of a baby? Or is all well?
It's not. It's not, because at the end of the day, what is the end for a radio station or a TV station that is owned by a politician? Power.
Yeah.
Yes. So if it becomes too many and it's not well regulated, and during, for instance, a critical heated election, you have somebody go on and make certain comments, it's not good. It won't be good for our democracy, especially when we have a system where politicians control everything.
Yeah. In fact, in the 2008 election in Ghana, Oman FM and Radio Go nearly sank the country with their hate campaigns that they embarked on. Yeah.
So and that's why I perfectly agree that it's not good. If the other, it's not good, but the other side is, if it's set up and you have a team of, comes back to the same issue of well-trained professional journalists. Because some who will not put their credibility on the line because of that. No. And they walk. They would walk. Yeah. So, but for me, I think it's not good, because the end is power. And it
anything can be done to get the power.
Power.
Yeah.
Yes. That's it.
Let's talk about Solly. What's your take?
It boils down to the not so good economic conditions in a profession.
Yeah.
Journalism, yes. If a journalist is well paid and can afford certain things, I mean, when sometimes when you go for conferences with
assignments
and other things with journalists from other institutions or other media houses, where it is a strict policy that you do not take this.
Yeah.
They don't take them. But when it's left hanging, that's when, because if people are not, if a journalist comes to cover an event for a station and he has real challenges, they will take that to be able to, as Ghana people prefer to say paparazzi and all of those ones, be able to take that to, I mean, as a means to an end for them. But I think that it's all because of the situation, the kind of industry in which media is situated in Ghana. And you have majority of media owners who are not paying journalists well. And this, I'm speaking about some of my colleagues.
Some are not being paid at all.
Yes. But I, thankfully, fortunately, didn't have myself in such a situation. But you talk to your colleagues and your friends, and that is what would drive them to take that. So if the standards financially do not improve, you can't begrudge anybody for doing that. You can't. But when that keeps on going, when that cycle starts, that's how come you get people into sort of things. Come and take this and go and do that, and then people start planting stories and all of, which may have its own good and bad sides. Yes. So that's what I think.
Is there any golden memory you want to share? These years you have been actively practicing.
I would say
But
the joy
before you go on to that, tell me about how you fared within the first week you were thrown into parliament.
oh good oh God. it was it was it was it was a it was it was a diff it was a diff it was not okay. So I read political science, so it was understanding the how the workings of parliament was not so difficult, but practically gaining the confidence to set up interviews, talking to people that you had seen, it took some time. Initially, I didn't really like that compared to the protocol journalism I was doing. You go for assignments, you interview people, you come back to the newsroom, you cut your voices, that's for radio. And TV, you put in a certain structure and get the stories done. But in parliament, it was your own field. You had to find out what the topical issues were and get the news. And you are competing with others. So initially it was not easy. It was tough. But thankfully I understudied Richard Sky.
Yes. Who had been there for a long time.
A long time. And I'm forever grateful to Richard Sky. Very, very grateful to him. How he would ask you to do certain stories and would sort of find out how you had done and give you candid feedback. If you messed up, he will tell you you've messed up. If it's a good story, he will tell you it's a good story that you've done. And with time and with the natural interest that I had started cultivating, I was able to get along. But the first week was, oh my God, you walk up to people for interviews, and if you don't have your facts right, if you have not done your research, if you're not asking the right questions, you will know that this did not go and anything like that. So the first few weeks was not at all. It wasn't, but I'm grateful to Richard and to Richard Sky and to Bernard, to Samantha, everybody. Like once you are within that space, once you are within that, you have to, because the standards are high. And this is Richard. I was listening to Richard in school before I got the opportunity to work with him.
Yeah.
And you can't fail. No, you can't. Yeah. But initially it was tough. It was.
Before you entered parliament, those times you were on the beat, on different beats, reporting on various sectors of the society. Which assignment or group of assignments would you say stand out as your most challenging?
It will be reporting the social the social stories there's an incident somewhere. Remember, for instance, the atomic explosion.
Yeah, explosion, that's right.
Yes. Yeah, I lived in that area at that point in time. So close, we're going home. It happened. You are done with that one of story. But to do a proper story, you have to keep on going on and finding out relocation, has it been done well?
Yeah.
They've been moved from where they were, the station, to another place. Have they been brought back? All of this. So that if you want to do a proper work on a social story, it takes time. And in the way our newsrooms are set up, that's not really give anybody that time to do one proper impactful story and do it very well, at least at the time. This was 2017. Yeah. And I found it very
challenging.
I found it challenging doing such stories. One of this parliament, you just do that, do your story, you move on. And then later on, if you can follow up, you do follow up on that scope. So that's following up on social stories doing stories social stories were quite difficult or challenging for me. Let me put it that way. And I've explained why I found them challenging, because you may not have all the resources to be able to do one good stories. You may not.
Right. If we are to go back into time, 10 years, are you still going to choose journalism?
Yes, for that period, for the period of my life that I did journalism, I will still choose it. I will still choose it. I will still choose it because it does not only it's not only about the ethics and the fact that it's a discipline of verification, and it's a job that brings you it's the core, the fourth estate of the realm for a reason. It gives you the opportunity to serve in a way by holding accountable all the other parts of the realm. So for me, that is good because you find out that you're also contributing your quota to the society. And if I have that opportunity to work in journalism right after university, I will still do it because not only does it not only is it rewarding getting close to the people, the real actors, people who run the country, it also develops you in a way that's unimaginable. You build long lasting friendships. You train yourself personally. How when you hear stories, you have to, or when you listen to some. I mean, the journalist default setting is to doubt anything, just to be able to ensure that you bring out the facts. So all that training helps you in whichever way you want to, in whichever sphere of life you want to move on to after you. And for me, I never, no. Especially with where I got to work, it's and that's the only place professionally I've worked, and it's an amazing it's been an amazing experience working there, and it's talking to from my experience. It was good. If I have the opportunity, I will still do it anytime, any day. Yeah.
Let me put you on the spot. How many years are you going to go in journalism or with journalism before you drop the mic?
As long as my abilities can carry me. That's all, yeah. As long as my abilities can carry me. Yeah. Because you realize that once you have passion for it, even if you're outside it, you still have that passion keeps you going because you're always on the move, trying to listen, to keep yourself kind, to find out what you're to find out what is going on around you, to inform you of what is going on, so that if you have that opportunity or the means to contribute, you'll just do that because it's truly rewarding sharing information with people, knowing that it's going to be used for a good end. So as long as my abilities can carry me, I would want to do it.
My final question: does journalism pay?
If you want to do that it alone in Ghana, it does not. Yeah, but if that's what you want to do, you do it, but you have find other streams of income, especially if you want to live comfortably. That's the honest truth from my experience. That's what I would say.
Duke Mensah Opoku, thanks for this opportunity and this conversation on PENSDOWN. Truly grateful.
You're most welcome. Always, you're most welcome.
Right. Thanks for joining us. This has been PENSDOWN. Today I've been joined by my colleague, Duke Mensah Opoku. For some years, he served as parliamentary correspondent for City News generally, right? Because you write for online, for radio, and for TV as well.
TV, yeah.
Okay. And currently, as we speak, he's pursuing further studies, hopefully to come back a much better person to contribute to the conversation. We wish you well in your current endeavors, and we hope to see you very soon when you are done. I just hope they will not put you away wherever you find yourself.
Thank you. Pleasure is all mine.
Right. We'll be back next time with another edition. Thanks for joining us on PENSDOWN today. Bye for now.